Welcome to episode 8 of Associations Now Presents, an original podcast series from the American Society of Association Executives. I'm Teri Carden. You may have seen me around the association world as founder of Non-Duzapalooza, AMS Fest, and Review My AMS. But these days, I'm sidekicking it with co-founder of Higher Logic, Andy Steggles, with his newest product called Insight Guide. Some days I feel like a chicken with my head cut off as we manage our 20 plus clients. Yes, I'm throwing ASAE in there in the mix as one of our newest clients and all the implementations we have going on. But my real title is VP of Marketing and Client Success. Folks, I can tell you right now, it's a lot of fun to be me these days, helping associations invent and deliver new tools to help their members make smart buying decisions. But enough about me. Let's jump into today's conversation about events and sustainability. First of all, I do want to thank our episode sponsors, Visit Omaha and New Orleans and Company. Today, I am thrilled to welcome Virginie De Visscher, Executive Director of Business Events for Destination Canada, and Amy Hissrich, Vice President of International Affairs at ASAE. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Okay, so let's jump into today's conversation. I'm absolutely excited to talk about this topic. It's actually a topic that's personal and close to my heart. I'm actually a full-time van lifer. I collect memories, not things. So I naturally am overconscious about Mother Earth as it's truly an extension of my home. I feel like it's pretty easy for me to adjust my lifestyle so that I'm thinking about the future of our environment and our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren to come. But when I think of nationwide organizations like Destination Canada, it seems daunting. Like, how in the world, see what I did there? Do you support more localized DMOs with sustainability efforts? It does truly feel like a monumental task for conferences and events when there are literally millions of people involved. So, Virginie, let's get started with you and that question.
That's a
What
great question, Terry, because Canada is the second largest landmass in the world, right? And Destination Canada really plays a unique role as I call it a national conveyor or convener and a catalyst. So we're not a DMO ourselves. We work to build capacity, we create alignment, and we try to support our local partners in advancing sustainable business events. Some of the ways that we do that are, for example, training and education. So we've launched a national initiative where right now, actually, we have about 50 individuals across the country that are taking the Sustainable Event Professional Certification in partnership with the Events Industry Council. And that gives Canadian DMOs that foundational knowledge to integrate sustainability into their event strategies. We support Canadian cities in joining the Global Destination Sustainability Index, the GDSI, that helps them assess and benchmark themselves and improve their sustainability performance over time. We also see ourselves as bringing collaboration and tools together. So DMOs and venues and partners can share best practices and co-create tools around sustainability, calculators, storytelling assets. And finally, I believe in a national alignment. So we make sure that strategies reflect Canada's broader commitments. So Destination Canada has a 2030 tourism strategy so that all those collective efforts can be future facing, they can be consistent and scalable. So it's more about continuous improvement, and sustainability is embedded in destination marketing in how we do business events across the country.
So there's a saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And it sounds like you've got lots of single bites going on at one time to make a huge impact. And it makes a lot of sense bringing in those benchmarking and certification, and delivering those or offering those up or providing those resources to those groups. Excellent. Amy, did you want to add on to that?
I can address this more from the association perspective. So some of the first things that associations would want to think through when they're starting down their sustainability journey is really the why. So are they framing the conversations with their boards as to, does sustainability align with their mission? Is it part of their mission to embrace sustainable practices? And the other thing they might want to think through there is the component of risk and resilience when you're looking at sustainability. So sustainability has three pillars: environmental, social, and economic, but there are real potential downstream business risks. So when we're looking at risk and resilience, in 2025, the World Economic Forum released its risk report, and 2 of the top 10 short-term risks are environmental, with the second overall short-term risk being extreme weather events. So much like Virginie talked about being a convener, associations are conveners. And we, as part of what most associations do, we have conferences, congresses, events. An inability to convene because of extreme weather events represents a real and significant business risk for associations. So in addition to some association having a mission mandate, all associations may be impacted and will want to think through the risk and resilience process for sustainability and then work towards that.
Wow, it sounds like there are some big factors that are coming down the pipe for associations to be making sustainability a massive priority. And it sounds like they know it too. So that's good news. Okay, so on to the next question. What are the biggest challenges associations and DMOs face when implementing sustainability initiatives? Amy, in our early conversations about this, we talked about like millions, are coming and going from, for education and events. And there are monumental challenges that organizations are faced with. And, how are you coaching around those challenges to the associations and DMOs as they work to implement some of these sustainable strategies and initiatives?
Yeah, we're going again back to fundamentals. First, making sure that we have the upfront conversations with our board so that we know strategically where the alignment is, how far the organization is prepared to go, because then when you have that buy-in, then you can do a holistic plan that executes against that buy-in. So then you can start to say, we are committed to this work. We're focusing a lot these days on work over words. And so making sure that we then roadmap the actions we want to take. For most associations, their biggest impact initiative will be their meeting, conference, congress, or event. And so making sure that they are looking at that event as far as the sustainability impact there is likely where they're going to want to start. It's also where they can start building those quick wins. So we see a lot of examples of associations really trying to look at, well, sustainability has those 3 pillars, environmental, social, and economic. They often do look at the environmental impact of that meeting as a place to start. It is quantifiable. They can measure their progress. So oftentimes associations will start there.
Great. So it sounds like it's very similar in any area that an association is seeking change, right? You've got to start small. You've got to do something. And I loved your the framework of work over words, right? Actions do speak louder than words. And it sounds like, even educating associations that they need to start the conversation and then do something small is a huge gain and a huge win. And then when they see, when they see those analytics or those stats come back that they are making change, it can only snowball effect. So Virginie, how about you? Same question. Or did you want to add anything to what Amy mentioned?
Absolutely, Amy. I think we're so aligned on this one because, fundamentally, I think associations and DMOs want to be sustainable. But it's how do you translate those good intentions into actual actions? Because at the end of the day, we all face budget concerns. We face data gaps that you mentioned, and stakeholder alignment. Like, how do you get all the partners involved in an event to move in the same direction? And we recommend same things as you do, from early planning, to start ensuring that sustainability goals are embedded into the process, to partnerships. So please, associations, partner with your DMOs in making this happen, and transparency. Let's be open about what the goals are and what progress we want to see. So very much aligned.
If I can, Teri, I'd love to just say that's one of the main reasons I love working with Virginie so much, because when we did, as an example, write some of our guidelines as we're trying to be a laboratory and be an example of what associations can do, we wrote exhibitor guidelines for our annual meeting. And I was so grateful that Virginie has such depth of knowledge about sustainability practices that I really felt like I had somebody that I could say, can you help me review this from a substance perspective? So just knowing that somebody has done the upskilling for themselves. She mentioned the SEPC, but Virginie has a higher level credential for the for the sustainability profession, and I always just think that is so amazing because it demonstrates credentials are part of what associations do, and that's really walking the walk there. So I'm always just
Absolutely. I thought that whenever we started the conversation earlier, I was like, wow, this is so meta, and it is the beauty of associations, how collaborative we are and what a sharing community that we are. And that that you can lean on somebody who is two steps ahead of you. So what a great testament to working with Canada. So thanks for sharing that, Amy. Great. Let's take a quick break from our conversation for a word from Visit Omaha. Omaha is where work and play meet. The city is expanding its meeting venues and adding attractions. The Riverfront, a 72-acre green space downtown, features recreational amenities, scenic views, and room to unwind. Omaha's Convention Center is investing $200 million to create more event opportunities. Jocelyn Art Museum's new wing offers after-hours inspiration, and a $950 million airport expansion will nearly double the terminal size by 2028, adding new gates and streamlined security. Does pairing productivity with play sound like the right fit for your meeting? Find out more at visitomaha.com/meetings. So, moving into question number 3. So we talked a lot about the initiatives and the challenges and overcoming those challenges, and what are maybe some of the current events that are happening now that affect the impact? What are, beyond environmental sustainability? How can associations and DMOs ensure that their meetings leave a lasting positive impact on the local community?
I'm gonna jump in there. Amy said earlier, sustainability is a three pillar word, and we think the same. It's not just environmental sustainability or emissions. It's really about people and place and purpose, and creating that legacy and long-term value for host communities with really that intentional design. And some of the ways that we can recommend or suggest to create that positive impact into destinations with events is, one is working with local suppliers and artisans so that event budgets really support the local economy, or partnering with Indigenous communities in Canada. That's this cultural sustainability angle, and inviting Indigenous leaders to shape programming and speak at events and showcase traditional knowledge, not just a checkbox, but really co-create, or incorporating volunteering, donation initiatives. We have La Table des Chefs in Canada and many others, or focusing on accessibility and inclusion. So to ensure the event is really welcoming and representative of the local population. Just a few ideas. The key is to ask, how can this meeting give back more than it takes?
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. It's teamwork too. Sounds like all the laundry list of people that would like to be involved if just asked. Yeah, amazing. Thank you. Amy, did you want to add to that?
No, I think the thing that I would bring in here is we've talked a lot about some quicker wins in my earlier conversation, but there are also, this could be a big moment for innovation. There are large-scale needs that will likely emerge. There's a school of thinking within the sustainability community that incremental reduction isn't going to get us to where we need to be. So I'll give the example since we're talking specifically about meetings. One of the biggest, and now I'm pivoting back to environmental because Virginie gave a great example of the people and the social pillar within sustainability. But back on the environmental one, fuel, getting people to that meeting tends to have the highest impact. But we also know these meetings, they're peer-to-peer knowledge exchanges. They create so much value, and upskilling and reskilling and are essential for delivering on the mission of associations. So we still know that that's going to happen. We want that to happen. So where's the innovation? And there are even coalitions now forming for developing new fuels so that we can then innovate and use new technologies to help us solve this problem, so that it's not always just where we're reducing. I'm a huge component or proponent of, our personal responsibility. So have my reusable coffee mug, and, Virginie had posted a few weeks back about plastic straws. I'm probably going to want to stop that and not use that example. So let's edit that plastic straw piece out. I don't want to include that one. We'll stay with the coffee mug. But there are going to be bigger actions that are going to require technical innovation. And I think associations are and coalitions of associations are starting to form to explore those possibilities. So there's some green spaces there. No pun intended.
Again, I think that's just emphasis or exclamation mark on the teamwork between organizations and technology companies and, vertical, industries to help, all ships rise here. Because to your point, Amy, we don't want to vaporize is people coming together to learn and to grow and to collaborate in meaningful ways for our industries and the professions that are represented. So thank you, ladies, for that fodder. Lots of community, ways that we can make impact on our small communities. So on to the next question. I know you have some examples, Amy, that you shared previously, and I'm sure you have a giant list of examples, but sustainability is not really a new topic, right? This has been something that's been on our desk for a long time. I think back to my early association career days, and this was a hot topic, in Florida then. And I know with the events that I've run or I've helped run over the last 18 years, and I think about the impact of each of those and just the sheer number of people that were involved there, we have evolved and gotten better. So, but what are some of the emerging trends that are on your desk right now that you've seen in events that associations and DMOs should be aware of?
So I want to take this down to just a really tangible example of behavior change, because while we talked about innovation before and sort of the macro technological solution, a lot of this is still going to be incentivizing the behaviors that we want to see and making the best decisions at an individual level. So I'll use the example, IMEX Frankfurt. I believe they probably do this for their Americas conference too. I just haven't been involved in that one. But when they give a menu, when you get a menu choice, they actually show the emissions choices, the footprint of that menu. So, of course, there are lower footprint foods and higher footprint foods. And so they ask you to choose, essentially, do you want this higher footprint meal that is likely to contain larger animals as you're looking down there? Do you want the more plant-based alternative? And I will be very honest, it changed my behavior. I really wanted the other meal. And just looking at the delta between the two numbers, I was like, I cannot possibly make that decision because it will hurt my soul. And that wasn't just because of the role that I wear here at ASAE. It was because, I wanted the carrot cake, which was in the other menu, but I did make the other choice because the numbers just told a story that I couldn't ignore. So I love that example.
It kind of harkens when they started adding calories to menus as well, right? It's kind of an eye-opening and sometimes jarring. When I looked at my bagel calorie count the other day, I was like, ooh, changing my mind. I better go with the egg bites, right? How about you, Virginie? Do you have any examples or anything you'd like to share about the trends that are on your desk right now?
I do. And I love, Amy, that you shared that IMEX example because it's impacted me personally a lot too. Most recently, I attended the SITE Global Conference of the Society of Incentive Travel Excellence. And we do have an industry that gives a lot of gifts, and it can be very wasteful. And what they did is they actually had a marketplace. And I've seen it a few times, but there it was really done tastefully. The event was in Mexico, and they had four different local vendors with things like a charcuterie board that was local wood and beautifully painted. And they had some beautiful fabrics with cushions or purses that were made out of straw, and all local artisans. And so the attendees could go and get one of the gifts of their choice. So it was a higher end gift. There was no waste. Everything was taken back. And then the local community really benefited from those purchases. So I thought that was a beautiful, beautiful example. But I'd like to add one more. And a trend that I'm seeing more and more is regenerative events. So the word sustainability is, in my mind, overloved, overused, and sometimes has a antagonist effect where people say, oh, again, sustainability. We're trying to have the other way around. And so it's how do we still talk about sustainability while maybe not using that word? We don't want to sustain where we are. We want to move beyond doing less harm to actually leave it better and restore ecosystems, invest in local communities, build social capital. So that regenerative term, I'm seeing it more and more come up, and I really love it. I think it's a beautiful way where our industry perhaps might be going.
Oh, what an awesome picture of what we should be working toward. I mean, when we think about where we've been or where we're going, even if it's something as simple as a hike, if we can just leave it a better place while we get to enjoy it. What a beautiful picture. Thank you for that. So let's take a quick break from our conversation for a word from New Orleans and Company. New Orleans and Company is the official marketing and sales organization for the tourism industry in New Orleans, renowned for seamlessly executing complex meetings and events with technical excellence. With deep local expertise and strong hospitality connections, they create unforgettable experiences that capture the city's unique spirit. From world-class venues to authentic cultural moments, they connect clients with the best resources to bring their vision to life. Passionate, professional, and dedicated, New Orleans and Company is the trusted partner for those looking to host exceptional events and one of the world's most vibrant destinations. Okay, moving into our final question here. So I love marketing and storytelling, especially when the antagonist, or the challenge is so colossal and yet it's relatable, and the hero or the heroine performs in an almost superhuman way, right? I believe that stories about the grind that make monumental changes for the world and the community around us should be shared. I don't think that we should be going through jumping through these hoops in vain, or even just for the sake of leaving it a better place. I think it's okay to share our story. And obviously, some of these sustainable efforts are exactly that. They are big feats and collaborations by humans doing superhuman things so that we can leave the world a better place. So what are some of the strategies that associations are leveraging from these efforts to enhance their brand and member engagement? Kind of like sort of tying it all together. Like we know to start off, Amy, you mentioned, associations need to focus on the why, right? But now this is a little bit more of like the how. How are they telling their story, or how are they enhancing their brand and member engagement? And honestly, I think of this question a little bit as this could be the conversation starter for your board and for your executive leadership. Selfishly, how can some organizations elevate their brand and involve members or get members more engaged through some of these practices? Amy, you working for an association, let's start with you.
Yeah, so once the organization is moving down this direction, I agree that probably would happen. What the reputational lift would happen during that initial conversation, but where that's going to get sort of implemented and moved into the operational piece is further downstream. And so Of course, associations are starting to put up their sustainability practices pages on their websites and things that you would expect. But one of the areas that I see as more opportunity does tie back to meetings and events, because it is often where our members will interact with our sustainability decisions. So using those moments to communicate why we're making some of the changes that we may be making. So I'll use ASAE as an example. We intentionally did not give people reusable mugs at our annual meeting last year, even though we eliminated or we reduced as much as we possibly could single-use plastics with the goal towards elimination. And we did that because we wanted to incentivize them to bring their own mug. Everybody has now 7 different reusable mugs, just giving them a higher a higher end piece of plastic wasn't going to affect the kind of change we were looking for, but we were sensitive to not wanting our members to not know. They wouldn't know, did we make a financial decision versus did we make an intentional decision for a specific outcome? Using the meal example again, when people are waiting in line and they're seeing the options that they've been presented with, sometimes those choices were made with sustainability in mind. And so making sure that we're communicating that. Virginie tells the great stories of the markets or the gifts that are from local communities that could use that support new local merchants to help lift up those local communities that need that lift. Tell that story about why you made those decisions. So I think that's key. The other thing, and we haven't really talked about it, so it's brand not just from the members' perspective, but from a workforce perspective. Of course, we're all trying to attract the best possible staff. And Gen Z, I'm going to read some data from Deloitte here. 46% have already changed or plan to change job or industry due to climate concerns. 54% say they or their colleagues are putting pressure on their employers to take action on climate change. And 64% are willing to pay more to purchase environmentally sustainable products. Of course, that last data point doesn't talk about them joining the workforce, but it does show that they are willing to put money behind this, just underscoring how important this is for associations as they're trying to attract the best possible workforce.
Ah, wow. I mean, when personal values of the employees are hitting the pocketbooks of the companies that are hiring, that's when change is really going to happen, right? Virginie, how about you? Have you seen any of your partners elevate their brand or get their communities involved through some of the programs that they've been able to initiate?
Totally. And I do believe in the power of those brands. And so from a national perspective at Destination Canada, we're seeing that meetings that are designed with purpose, with responsibility and community impact in mind, they help associations stand out. And I mentioned this earlier, the word sustainability really gets used a lot, but it's about future focused choices. It's about aligning with values that matter to your members and the communities you're gathering in. Amy, ASAE, you gave that example with the water bottles, so thoughtful, right? So when associations make those thoughtful decisions, like working with local suppliers or reducing waste or partnering with Indigenous communities, it does much more than check a box. It tells that story. And it shows your members and stakeholders what you really stand for. You mentioned the younger generations, right? They want to feel that events that they're part of are doing some good. And that emotional connection really strengthened the engagement and the loyalty of members. And we're seeing that even from the DMO NTO perspective, people want to belong to organizations that share their values. So we're really trying to make that easier on the Canadian side and working with our DMOs and our partners and our tools and supporting associations to create events that not only reflect operational excellence, but really push the boundaries of meaningful impact to create that stronger brand and resonate into the story from the beginning to the closing keynote. So I'm in agreement with you about that, the power of that brand.
Amazing. I wish we had all afternoon to talk about this. However, I hope somebody is on their e-bike with their AirPods in listening to this, and they're probably, at work already, if people even still do those things. Themes that popped up today: work over words, people, place, and purpose. Making micro changes in behavior, and that doesn't even just start with a single person. It can start around a small group of leaders at an organization. And honestly, I would love to walk away with a local hand painted tiny something, from a marketplace of an event I went to, rather than, another pen or another notepad. Forgive me, for those of you that are doing that. And honestly, I didn't realize, but I do think that even my tiny little efforts in my little van life, are making a difference. So, Virginie, Amy, what a beautiful testament to the power that collaboration, teamwork around a single purpose, and also setting intention for what you want to do, so that we can leave this world a better place. Both of you today, your involvement in this conversation has been a true testament to that. So thank you so much. Thank you for being our guest today, and thanks to everyone for listening to this episode of Associations Now Presents. Join us each month as we explore key topics relevant to association professionals, as we discuss the challenges and opportunities in the field today, and highlight the significant impact associations have on the economy and the U.S. and the world. And I'm going to add this, even though it's not in my outro notes, the universe. Again, thank you so much to our episode sponsors, Visit Omaha and New Orleans and Company. For more information about our sponsors, check out their links in the show notes. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And for more information on sustainability and the association space, visit Associations Now online at associationsnow.com.